Been on live for such a long time, and I want to welcome everybody who's joining us because today's conversation, I just felt like I needed to come out and talk about it because it seems like nobody knows it happened. So, last year, throughout the whole year of 2024, we were talking about the lawsuit and what we had to do to change how we work in the real estate industry at that time. And what happened was, a lawsuit happened back east in a state that's not California. And what people have to understand is different states do real estate in different ways. However, unfortunately, a listing agent was at a listing appointment and she was talking to her sellers and she negotiated her part of the commission, which is what we do. We talk to the seller about what we're going to do for them, how it's going to work. Hi, how you doing? How it's going to work and everything that's going to happen as you go through the steps of selling your home. And in the past, we used to negotiate our commission and the commission of the buyer's agent. Okay, so make sure you understand that in the past, we used to negotiate our commission plus the commission for the buyer's agent. Now, what happened in the lawsuit is the young lady that was the agent was working with a friend. It was actually a friend. And she sat down with them and told them how much her commission was. And then she went on to say that when a buyer comes with their agent and they put an offer in, the buyer's agent, we need to pay them something. And, we have to decide how much you want to pay them. And it's completely open to what you're allowed to pay them. And it could be $1, it could be, X, it could be Y, it could be Z, whatever it's going to be. We can put that into the MLS. And that way, when the buyer's agents are looking at which homes to show the buyers, they're also going to see how much they're going to get paid from the seller of that property. And that's how it's been done for 100 years. And so she did everything that she could have done right, apparently. But the sellers just weren't comfortable with the fact that she told them that if they didn't offer something to the buyer side, then nobody would bring them a buyer. And that's not exactly how it should have been worded because, that's not necessarily true. I mean, when I'm looking with buyers, honestly, I ask the buyer what they're looking for. I find out what they're qualified for, and I look for a home that matches their needs, and of course, their wants and their needs. Now, after the deal was closed, they went ahead and they talked to a couple people, and a couple people knew a couple people that knew a class action lawsuit attorney, and they started a class action lawsuit back in 2019. So this was going on for a while. Well, after it was said and done, as of August of last year, we do not negotiate our commission and the commission of the buyer side. Okay, so the reason this is so important is I am still seeing and talking to people that are telling they're telling people, oh, I'll list your house for 4%. Okay, but what is that 4% for? Because if I'm going to pay 4% to you, how much am I going to give to the buyer side? And how is that going to work? And so it's kind of a real mess right now because there are so many real estate agents out there. And how can we reach all of them? That's why it's super interesting that it was a class action lawsuit because this was a realtor back, I believe, in Missouri. I'm not going to bet my life on it, but I believe she was in Missouri. Missouri has different contracts than we do. So for it to be a class action against every realtor in the United States, that just doesn't make sense to me because in California, we are very careful with what we say to our buyers and our sellers. And so, you feel like everybody knows and everybody is on board, but they're not necessarily on board because I went on a listing appointment recently. And that's where I thought, oh my gosh, I have to explain this so much more clear. Okay? So it's going to be very clear. When I went over to the listing appointment, the guy said to me, my mother wants to list with her friend, and she's offering to list the home at 4%. And I said, 4%, really? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, what's the 4% for? So he really didn't know what the 4% was for. And she hadn't said anything, and she hadn't had a listing appointment. She just thought because it was her friend, she could just throw out 4%. Well, in today's day and age, the listing agent can range depending on their experience and what they're going to do for you. And they said that, okay, it's going to drop dramatically on the seller side and on the buyer side. Well, it did drop a little bit, but not really that dramatically because we still have to do all the work that we do. And so honestly, if somebody's going to list your home, I would say the minimum, very minimum, would be would be 1.5%. And I would say the maximum is probably going to be, I just got a call and it's a call that's really important, but I have to keep going because I really want to finish this. So, anyway, the whole point is if somebody's saying that they're going to list your home for 4 or 5 or 6%, then they're not up on today's market. They don't know how to do the listing the correct way. And if they don't understand how to do the listing the correct way, are they going to be able to understand how to do your listing and how to take you every step of the way from the beginning to the end? Because if they're not following the law, basically what happened is we cannot negotiate for the buyer's agent. The only thing I'm going to negotiate for when I'm doing a listing is how much you're going to pay me to do what I'm going to do, and I'm going to show you everything I'm going to do. But before I even start a listing appointment, the first thing I'm going to ask is, are you sure you want to sell your home? Because every agent that sits down with a seller should be asking that. You should ask, where are you going? Why are you selling? It's not because we're nosy. It's because we want to know if you qualify to do what you're going to do. So if you're going to sell your home and you're going to step up to a bigger home that's going to cost you more money, have you been pre-approved to go ahead and make that decision and be able to sell your house and do what you want to do and buy the next home? Are you qualified to do that? Because I've seen people that they've list their house, they sell it, and then they don't qualify for another home. And then they're like, oh my God, what do I do? And then there's, what happens? This is something that really bugs me. What happens if I'm an 80-year-old woman and I want to sell my house because I'm moving to an adult senior citizen apartment complex where they're going to do assisted living? Well, guess what happens? As an adult at 80 years old, selling your home and moving to a rental, you're going to have a huge capital gain, which I really want to work with my local senator and my local assembly person, and I want to see if there's a way that at that point. This is what's really sad, and this is what I want you guys to understand. What's really sad is that if I sell my house while I'm alive and I'm an older person and I'm going to move into a rental property that's going to be an in-home care place, then I'm going to be hit with a capital gain. And that capital gain could be substantial, especially if you bought your home a long time ago for $60,000, $70,000 and now it's worth, over $1 million. I have a huge capital gain. It could be $100,000 or more. And I might need that money depending on how long I'm going to live. So if I live and I go to an assisted living, I'm going to lose money in the capital gain. But if I die and my kids inherit my home, they get the step up basis. And when they sell the home, they're not going to pay capital gains. Plus, because it's an inheritance tax. So how come we don't have a way that seniors can sell their home, put the money into a trust, not pay the capital gain because their kids aren't going to pay it if they die? So why should the person pay it if they have to go into a home? So there's so many things you need to talk to your sellers, your clients about before they sell their home. How much capital gain are they going to have? Or should they just move into that assisted living and then go ahead and after they move into the assisted living, let their kids rent out the house until they pass? Then they have the inheritance, which there's no inheritance tax. So there's so many things you have to ask people when you go on a listing appointment. I sat down on a listing appointment, God, it was a few years ago. And it was funny because they invited me to their home to sell their home. And I sat down and I said, I understand. And I looked at the husband and I said, you don't want to sell the home. And he said, correct. And I looked at the wife and I said, I understand you want to sell the home. And she said, correct. And I said, I'm not going to side with either of you. I'm going to sit in the middle of the two of you. I sat at the end of the table. And I said, first, we're going to talk about the numbers if you sell the home. Then we're going to talk about the numbers if you keep the home. And if you keep it and rent it out, and if it's even possible that you can keep it and rent it out and then move forward and buy another home and have that asset paying you income while you downsize to the right size now that your kids have moved out. So these are really important things that you have to, it's our fiduciary duty as a licensed realtor, as a licensed realtor, to help our clients understand how to do the best thing with their asset. And, people always look at me when I'm talking to them. They're like, so you're a broker. Aren't you supposed to help people sell their home? And I'm like, exactly. But I need to make sure that what they think they're going to do, they can do. Because if they can't do it and I sell their home, that's going to be a problem that's going to come back to me. So you have to know how to tell them, this is how much it's going to cost you. This is how much the capital gain is going to be. And this is how much money you're going to have in your hand to go and do the next investment or to go and move into another location. So that's on the listing side. Now, remember, on the listing side, you're still seeing people that are advertising 4%. Well, what's that 4% for? Is it 2% for me and 1% to the buyer's agent? Or 2% to me and 2% to the buyer's agent? But I'm not supposed to be negotiating the buyer's side anymore. So if somebody says they're going to list your home for more than 4%, you need to ask them, is that your commission and someone else's commission? Is it your commission and it's higher than normal? What is that commission? Because if I'm a listing agent and I list the house for 2%, I say, I'm going to list your home for 2%, but be aware, this is what you have to say, but be aware that the buyer's agent is probably, depending on the purchase of the home and how much the house is, the buyer's agent might write into the purchase contract that they want the seller to pay for the buyer's agent. Now that's all negotiable. Everything is negotiable. And it always has been. It always has been. So the thing is when you're talking about how much is the buyer side going to get, you have to make your seller aware that the buyer side is going to ask for commission. If it's a really expensive house and the buyer has the money for the down payment, they have the money for the closing costs and the money for the realtor, they may not ask for the seller side to pay for it. But what the main thing is you need to look at the net. Okay, so does it really matter if the buyer writes into the contract that they want you to pay for their agent, but you're netting out more money than any of the other offers? Then you're looking at the net. What are you actually getting in your hand to move on to your next purchase? Okay, because if you're paying the buyer's agent and you're getting X amount, but if you're not paying the buyer's agent and you're getting the same amount, then you have to look at the terms of the contract and see which contract is the stronger contract and which agent is communicating with you. In fact, the house that I'm going to close on probably next Tuesday, there was 3 offers in, and I was against 2 other people, and I was talking to the agent, and I talked to him a lot. And I talked to him about what's going on in real estate. And he said, oh my gosh, in 10 minutes, I learned more from you than any other agent I ever spoke to. I said, that's pretty cool, huh? And he goes, yeah. He goes, you know a lot. And I said, thank you. And he said, I actually really want to work with you. And your offer is one of the best written offers I've seen. And he goes, but I do have 2 other offers. And my seller does have to look at the other offers. And I said, that's fine. And I said, let me know if there's any questions you have for me. And we worked together and we communicated. Hey, how you doing, Ellie? We worked together and we communicated, and my clients got the home because I was communicating with the other side. Now, on the buyer side, you never, ever, ever, ever get someone to work for you for free. So if somebody tells you, as a buyer's agent, if they say to you, please, if they say, well, don't worry what I cost because you don't have to pay me, the seller side's going to pay me, or you're not paying me. If somebody says that to you, that's your clue to leave and go find somebody else, because that's absolutely not true. No real estate agent works for free. And yes, it's possible that the seller's agent or the seller's side will pay me and the seller's agent's already negotiated something. But if they negotiated something, they didn't negotiate it in writing, because the seller's agent is not allowed to go ahead and negotiate for the buyer's side anymore. So with that said, when somebody says, you're not paying me, the seller side's going to pay me, that's a red flag. Okay, a huge red flag. So the thing is as of August of 2024, we had to start using it's called the BRBC, and that's the buyer's agreement. If a real estate agent takes you out to look at a property without having you sign a contract and an agency form, that absolutely means that, guess what? They don't know what they're doing. They're not current on the rules and regulations of how they're supposed to be working with a buyer. And that's your clue to go somewhere else and get somebody who's professional, who's following the lawsuit and knows how the forms are done. Because if the forms are done wrong, something bad could happen. So I wanted to make sure that you guys know that at this point, the seller side does not negotiate the commission amount for the buyer side. And normally what's going to happen is, if depending on the price of the home, and if it's a really expensive home, then the buyer's probably going to have their down payment, their closing costs, and pay their own agent. If it's not such an expensive home and the buyer needs some help, the buyer's probably going to ask for the seller to pay some stuff. So you got to sit down and you got to look out at what you're netting, because that's the most important thing. Now, today's topic was talking to the buyers and the sellers, and that's what I did. But the other thing I want you guys to learn about is where to go to pass your real estate exam if you're trying to get your license, because it never hurts to have a real estate license. I promise you, doesn't hurt to have a real estate license, because you'll know that you'll be able to learn, grow, and negotiate. So with all that said, I'm the person you're going to come to get your real estate license. So not only do I, my business partner and I are both working real estate agents. In fact, I'm closing a commercial deal and a normal real estate deal next week, 2 in 1. So that's kind of cool. So I am a working real estate agent. I have examples of what you need to know to pass your real estate exam. Watching our videos, we've had people from all the states contact us and say, you know what? We have passed, we passed and we're in Texas. I've passed and I'm in Maryland. So, no matter where you are, real property is real property, and personal property is personal property. So it can't hurt you to take our class. So our next class is Saturday at 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. And normally we teach every other Saturday. And then we teach again on Sunday. The second half of the class is 8:30 p.m. to around 5 p.m. So what we do is we do a Saturday, and then after Saturday, we try to schedule Monday through Thursday. So then we'll do Monday through Thursday from 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. And what that does is, if something was too fast for you on the weekend, or there's a subject that you're not sure about, you can go ahead and retake the class, because what we do is we allow our students to take our class 3 times before they take their exam. So that's why our students are passing, but they're also passing because I'm not just cramming stuff down their throat and giving them word association. I'm actually teaching them. So people who take our class learn a lot about real estate. So even if you're not taking the exam, honestly, you might as well take our class if you want to learn about real estate, because real estate builds wealth. So not only do our students pass, our real estate salespeople are at approximately 98%. We very, very, very rarely have someone who doesn't pass the first time. And then all of our brokers, every single person who took our brokers class last year, have their broker's license now. Isn't that exciting? So if you have any questions regarding buying, selling, maybe you're a real estate agent and you have a question about our classes, we also teach people how to pass the mortgage loan origination, which is a national exam. So we're here to help you build wealth, learn more about real estate. And you guys, if you have any questions at all, put it in the comments and we'll get back to you. Ellie, congratulations on having another baby. She's on baby number 3. So our people follow us all over, and it's super exciting because we're here to help you do anything that you need to do in your real estate career. Have an amazing, or wait, not just your real estate career, but buy more homes, buy property. So remember to look for us and ask us questions. We're here to help you. And put it in the chat, or put it in, well, it's not the chat actually. I'm so used to saying chat because we always are on Zoom, but put it in our questions and give us thumbs up and all that great stuff. And we'll see you in the real estate world. Have a great evening.